Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The moment the 10th bullet slammed into the bullseye, the room fell silent, except for the sound of a chair scraping back as one of the men stood, pale, whispering, "That's impossible." She couldn't even see. Gunsmoke curled in the air. The sharp scent of cordite clung to the air like judgment. Emma Mikhail stood still, the black blindfold still snug over her eyes. She didn't tremble. She didn't gloat. Her hand slowly lowered the pistol, her breath calm, controlled. Across the room, every face had changed. Just moments ago, they were smirking, leaning on polished walnut benches, sipping whiskey from crystal tumblers, laughing behind designer suits and Rolexes. Now, not one dared to speak. She lifted the blindfold slowly, revealing eyes that weren't angry anymore. They were something colder. "Done. Now," she said, voice soft but clear. "Which one of you will apologize first?" Silence. She turned and walked toward the ranger's exit. Her heels clicked like gunshots on the marble floor. No, one followed, but someone should have, because what none of them knew, what no one in that exclusive members-only club understood, was that this wasn't just a performance. It was the start of war. Hours earlier. "You, at Kingsman Range." Jared's voice came through the phone, with that casual cruelty she knew all too well. "Emma, be serious. That's not your kind of place." Emma sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the invitation in her hands. Gold-embossed lettering. Black envelope. Unmistakable. "They sent me an invite," she replied, keeping her tone flat. He chuckled. "Probably a mistake. Those guys don't even let women compete. Hell, last year they rejected General Harper's daughter, and she's military." Emma's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm going." Another pause. "You'll just embarrass yourself, or me." Emma didn't respond. She hung up. The next morning she stood in front of the mirror, hair tied back, eyes tired but burning with something deeper. She pulled open her drawer, reached past the folded clothes and drew out a worn case, gunmetal grey. Inside, an old pistol, matte black, engraved initials on the handle. VM Victor Mikhail, her father. Dead 5 years now. Suicide, they said. A quiet one. No note, no press. Just gone. She knew better. Emma set the gun down and took a long breath. "Let's see how far they'll push," she whispered. The Range, Kingsman Elite Shooting Club. The Kingsman Range looked more like a luxury ski resort than a place to shoot. Targets, mahogany walls, animal heads, leather lounges and custom Scotch blends. The members were just as polished. Generals, CEOs, diplomats, all male. Emma walked in alone, wearing a charcoal grey blazer and dark jeans. Nothing flashy. The room quieted for a beat, then it resumed, louder than before, performative. "Lost, miss?" one man asked, barely hiding his grin. "I'm here for the challenge round," she said simply. Snorts, scoffs. Even the receptionist looked confused. He flipped through the guest list. Emma Mikhail?" he asked. She nodded. He frowned. "That's impossible. Mikhail was my father." The room changed again. It always did when she said his name. People remembered Victor Mikhail. Decorated war veteran, strategist, marksman, once celebrated, then quietly erased. A voice came from the bar. "Let her try. What's the harm? We could use a laugh." It was Gregor Wyatt, slender, smug, CEO of some security firm and a former Kingsmen champion. He waved her over. "You're Victor's daughter?" he asked, swirling his glass. "Well, that explains the ego." She didn't blink. "No, just the precision." Laughter rolled. "You brought your own weapon?" he mocked. She held up the case. "Oh, how quaint. Look, boys, Daddy's gun." Emma's fingers gripped the handle. "Put me on the list." Gregor leaned in, smirking. "You want in on the real challenge? 10 shots, 10 meters, 10 targets." Blindfolded murmurs spread. She met his eyes. "Done. Tonight," he said. Final round. Fine. She turned, walked toward the practice lanes. Someone whispered, "She'll shoot her own foot off." Later that evening, Emma stood in the practice bay, breathing through clenched teeth. Center. Left. High. Now adjust. The voice came through, her earpiece. Talia, her best friend and ex-army instructor, was watching through a remote cam link. They had trained for months for this. "You're overcorrecting. Trust the sound, not your mind." Emma exhaled. A single bead of sweat rolled down her temple. She pulled the trigger, click bullseye. She lowered the pistol, heart pounding. "Still got it," Talia said. "You ready for tonight?" Emma didn't answer right away. "I'm not doing this for sport," she whispered. "I know. I think one of them killed him. My father. He didn't take his own life." Talia was quiet. "Then hit your marks, Ems. Make them notice you. Then dig." PM. Final round. The hall had filled with spectators, champagne, flashbulbs. High stakes. It was the annual Kingsman Showcase. Only members or their kin could compete. Gregor was up first. 10 blindfolded shots, 8 hits, roars of approval, applause. Emma stepped up, slipped on the blindfold. Whispers rippled like wind through dry grass. "She'll never hit one. She's just a stunt. She's not even military." Then silence. Her first shot rang out. Bullseye. Second, bullseye. By the 5th shot, no one was whispering anymore. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 a beat. The official leaned in, wide-eyed. All 10. Center mass. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, in disbelief. Emma removed the blindfold, looked straight at Gregor. "Still laughing?" she asked. He didn't answer. Aftermath, a room of men back. In the lounge, the tone had changed. Several. Members offered her drinks, others offered fake praise. Gregor stayed silent. Emma walked past them all, straight into the old trophy wing. Dusty, forgotten, but not by her. She ran her hand along a plaque. Victor Mikhail, 1991-2015, 3-time. Kingsman champion. She hadn't been allowed to attend the funeral. The club had taken his belongings, said he'd gone mad. No details, no records, but tonight proved something. They had lied. Later that night back in her hotel, she opened the envelope tucked into her coat pocket. Someone had slipped it to her during the commotion. Inside, a photograph. Grainy. Her father arguing with 2 men. One was unmistakably Gregor. On the back, 3 words. "Look deeper. Basement." Her breath caught. There was more to this. Much more. And she was just getting started. Cliffhanger ending of part 1. She stared at the photo again. Heart racing. A knock came at her door. Soft. Measured. She approached slowly. Through the peephole. Nothing. Just an envelope on the floor. She picked it up. Inside. Another photo. This time of her, taken tonight. A note was scribbled across the bottom. "You weren't supposed to come back." Emma stared at the photo in her hand. Her face, taken from across the street. That same grey blazer. That same blindfold, just slipping off. She hadn't seen the camera, hadn't felt watched. But someone had been watching, and now they wanted her to know. "You weren't supposed to come back." The words were scribbled across the bottom in thick black ink. Jagged, rushed, her stomach twisted. She didn't scare easily, but this wasn't a prank. This was a threat. She grabbed her jacket, shoved the photo into her back pocket, and bolted out of the hotel. Her boots slapped the wet pavement as she crossed the street and made her way back toward the Kingsman Club. It was just past midnight, and the city had quieted. But Emma's blood was loud in her ears. The club gates, 1246, and the wrought iron gates of the Kingsman Club loomed ahead like the jaws of something ancient. Closed, but not locked. She glanced at the camera mounted on the wall. Red light. Blinking. She looked straight into the lens, then walked past it and scaled the sidewall instead. Just like her father had taught her when she was 16, never walk through the door they expect. Find your own. The garden path was dark. Lights were off inside the club, but a faint glow leaked from a lower floor window. The basement. Exactly. Where the note had said. She crept closer. No guards, no voices. Just the low hum of electricity. The door to the basement was locked. She knelt, pulled a pin from her hair, and worked the lock. It clicked open in seconds. She slipped inside. The basement smelled like leather and oil. Shelves of antique rifles lined the walls. But it was more than just storage. A large steel door stood at the far end, half open. Beyond it, the light glowed blue. Emma stepped through and froze. There, on the wall, was a digital screen, old but still operational. A fingerprint scanner beside it. Next to the screen, a wooden case labeled VM15. Her father's initials, and the year he died. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the case. Inside, not a gun, a stack of files, a thumb drive, a journal, and beneath all that, a photograph. Her father, smiling, standing with two men. One was Gregor, the other, she recognized from the news, Senator Langford, the one leading the global arms negotiations. Emma's heart pounded. What the hell had her father been involved in? She opened the journal. June 1st, 2015. They think I don't know. Gregor's been laundering arms through private channels, using the Kingsmen shipments as cover. Langford's in on it. I found the manifest. I need to disappear. If they find... This, I'm already dead. Sudden footsteps. Emma snapped the journal shut and dove behind a pillar. Two voices. Male. Deep. One of them. Unmistakably Gregor. I told you, if she finds the journal, it's over, he snapped. She won't. You said she's just here for closure. Gregor laughed coldly. She's her father's daughter, stubborn and stupid. The other man replied, should we handle it? Not yet. Let her think she's safe. Then we make it look like an accident. Their footsteps receded. Emma's breath shook in her throat. She needed to get out. Now! She slipped the thumb drive and journal into her jacket, closed the case exactly as she found it, and crept back toward the door. But before she reached it, her phone buzzed, loud in the silence. She froze. The steps stopped, turned. Did you hear that? She ran. Back alley. Escape. Emma burst out of the basement exit, sprinted across the garden, and threw herself over the side wall. Just as a flashlight beam sliced through the air behind her, she hit the ground hard, rolled. Someone shouted. She didn't. Stop running until she hit the main road. Panting, heart thundering, she ducked into a side alley and leaned against the wall. She opened her phone. A message from an unknown number. You found the journal. Now you're in it. Talia's apartment, 213. A.M. Talia opened the door in a hoodie and boxers, holding a pistol behind her back. One look at Emma's face, and she dropped her defenses. You weren't followed? No! Emma stepped inside and dumped the journal. On the coffee table, Talia's jaw tightened as she read the entries. This is bad. They killed him, Talia. Gregor, the senator. My dad was going to expose them. And now you're next. Emma's eyes glinted. Then I hit first. Talia frowned. No, we go to someone. Press, law enforcement. Emma shook her head. They own it all. Look at who's involved. We go through channels. We die in process. Talia sighed. What's your plan? Emma stared out the window. The city glowed like fire. Tomorrow, she said, I challenge Gregor to a rematch. Talia blinked. What? Why? Because the club records everything. If I push him hard enough, he'll slip. Say something. I'll wear a wire, and this time he won't expect me to miss. The next day, Kingsman Club Emma walked in with fire in her veins. The room stilled again, but differently now, respect mixed with fear. Gregor was at the far end, sitting with Langford. Both looked calm. Too calm. She walked right up to them. Let's go another round, she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Gregor smirked. Trying to get lucky twice? She smiled. Scared? A murmur ran through the crowd. Langford raised a brow. This isn't a game, Miss McHale. No, she said coolly. But you've played it long enough. Langford's expression froze. Then he stood. Gregor leaned in. You don't know what you're doing. She leaned closer. I know my father didn't kill himself. Gregor's nostrils flared, but he smiled again, cold and thin. Range, 10 minutes. The range, high stakes. This time, the crowd was larger. Reporters, club members, military. Emma wore a simple white shirt and jeans. No blindfold, but underneath, taped to her collar, was a mic, streaming directly to Talia's laptop. She was parked in a van 3 blocks away, recording everything. The competition was simple. Both shooters get 10 shots. Most bullseyes wins. Gregor went first, 9 of 10, precise, cold. Emma stepped up. The room held its breath. She fired, one after another. 8, 9, 10, perfect. Gregor's jaw clenched. Then in front of everyone he laughed bitterly. You really are your father's daughter. Too bad he didn't keep his mouth shut either. Emma froze. The crowd went silent. She turned slowly. What did you say? Gregor's smirk vanished. Too late. Langford surged forward. Enough. This is over. But it wasn't. Not even close. Outside, Chaos Talia met her at the exit. We got it. Clear audio. He slipped. Emma nodded. We send it to every major outlet, but not yet. Why? Because he'll come after me. Desperate. That's when I'll find out the rest. Talia looked uneasy. He won't come alone. Emma's hand brushed the inside of her coat. I'm not alone either. That night, another message back at her hotel. Emma opened her laptop. Anonymous email. Subject: You're not the only one he betrayed. Inside, a video, surveillance footage. Her father, months before his death, arguing with Langford, with Gregor, and then a gun pulled, a struggle, the footage cut off. But that was enough. Her father hadn't killed himself. He'd been murdered. The screen flickered. Then a new message popped up. They know you have this. They're coming. Final. Scene. Cliffhanger sirens in the distance. Emma closed the laptop and stood, slipping the gun from her bag. Across the street, a black SUV parked. 2 men stepped out. One carried something long and wrapped, unmistakably a rifle. Emma didn't move, just stared out the window. Her voice was calm. Talia, they're here. Talia's voice crackled through her earpiece. I've got eyes. Want me to call backup? Emma smiled. No, let them come. Downtown Hotel, 308. Emma stood perfectly still as the black SUV idled across the street. 2 men got out, both in black suits, calm as shadows. One had a rifle case, the other spoke into his wrist mic. Talia's voice whispered through Emma's earpiece. I count 3 more inside the car, all armed. Emma didn't flinch. Good, she murmured. Let them come. Her fingers closed around the cold grip of her father's old sidearm, the one Talia had reconditioned just hours ago, the same model he taught her to shoot with. Your instincts will save you. Trust them. She took a long breath and walked calmly to the window, turned off the lights and left the curtains slightly open. Bait. Then she slipped out the side fire escape. 3 blocks away, surveillance van Talia tracked everything from the screens. Heat sensors, satellite pings, audio on loop from the hidden bug Emma had planted in Gregor's cuff during their handshake after the match. Gregor was scared. So was Langford, and that made them sloppy. Talia tapped the comms. They're inside the lobby now. 2 headed for the stairs. They think you're alone. Emma's voice came in steady. Good. Phase 2 starts now. 10 minutes later, rooftop trap. The rooftop of the adjacent building gave Emma a full view of her hotel room. The men were already inside, searching, silent and efficient. She waited, lying prone with the long-range rifle Talia had sourced from a private armory. Legally grey, morally necessary. She wasn't here to kill. Just to expose, the rooftop door behind her creaked. Emma rolled, gun raised, then lowered it fast. "Talia!" Her friend approached, crouched beside her. "They're bugging your stuff. They're leaving a false suicide note. They want to make it look like your father's fate was genetic." Emma's jaw clenched. "We let them finish." Talia blinked. "What?" Emma adjusted the scope. "When they leave, we follow them. See where they take the note, who they report to. Gregor's not the head. He's a soldier. I want the general." Talia stared at her a moment. "You're not stopping, are you?" Emma's eyes didn't leave the scope. "I lost everything once. Never again." Flashback, 2 years ago, a gun range, a quiet afternoon. Emma training alone, a voice from behind. "You hold your stance like a warrior." She turned, a tall man, military-cut hair, calm eyes. Gregor. He'd offered mentorship, guidance, said he knew her father. She was broken then, just months after her father's supposed suicide. No answers, no allies. She was desperate to make sense of it all. He'd used that, fed her just enough truth to earn her trust. She remembered how he watched her shoot, how he laughed when she missed. Maybe not a warrior after all. She remembered the burn, the humiliation, and the growing fire inside her that started that day. Present, the SUV departs. The men left the room, quietly, efficiently. They drove off with the fake suicide note and Emma's old photo album, the one with the coded notes in her father's handwriting. Another thing they'd tampered with. Talia tagged the vehicle. "They're headed east, signals bouncing off an industrial relay. We'll lose them if we don't move now." Emma nodded. "Let's go." Abandoned train yard. 4:27 a.m. The SUV rolled into a fenced yard. No cameras, no guards, just a low warehouse with a keypad door. The men unloaded the case and the envelope marked Emma M., then disappeared inside. Talia's drone hovered quietly overhead. Inside, the camera showed something shocking. Langford pacing, furious. "She knows too much. If that audio leaks, we're all dead." A fourth man stepped into view. Emma's breath caught. It wasn't Gregor, it was Director Mason, head of the International Weapons Oversight Council, the very man assigned to investigate Emma's father's death. "What the hell?" Talia whispered, stunned. He was the one who buried the case, not just bureaucratic delay. Emma stared at the screen. He was in it the whole time. Langford's voice came in clearer now. Gregor's weak. He's scared of her. Mason's reply was ice. "Then we cut him out." Talia's apartment. Safe house return. Emma and Talia watched the drone footage over and over. Director Mason. Langford. A massive conspiracy. International weapons trafficking, all built on silencing dissenters like Victor Mikhail, her father. Man who had served, protected, and, when he found out, tried to do the right thing. They'd erased him, and now they were trying to erase her. Emma slammed her fist into the table. Talia looked up. "What now?" Emma's eyes burned. "I don't want to just expose them. I want to destroy them." Next day, Emma's last message to Gregor, she sent him a private message. "I know you're not the boss, you're a pawn, but you're smart. Enough to know this ends one of two ways. Help me bring them down, or you go down first." 5 minutes later, he responded, "Meet me where your father last stood. 1 hour. Talia read it over her shoulder. "It's a trap." Emma nodded. "I'm counting on it." Old gun range. On the outskirts, the place hadn't been touched in years. Emma hadn't set foot here since the night she found the coroner's report, the one that didn't match the suicide story. The place where her father had practiced. Every morning before his final deployment, Gregor stood at the far end, alone. For now. Emma approached slowly. A gun holstered, hands visible. "You came," he said. "I usually show up for funerals." She replied coldly. His mouth twitched. "I didn't want him dead. But you helped cover it up." Silence. Gregor looked away. "I didn't know they'd go that far. I thought they'd exile him." Cliffhanger ending, surveillance room. Inside, a sleek room, Director Mason watched the monitor. He turned to Langford. "She's still alive," Langford muttered. "She's getting too close." Mason nodded, cold. "Then we don't wait anymore. We make her next public appearance. Her last." 2 days later, a storage locker in a dead zone unit 84B was hidden in a rundown facility just off a forgotten highway, surrounded by dry brush and rusted fences. The code, Gregor whispered, still echoed in Emma's ears. Talia kept watch as Emma picked the lock. No cameras, no guards, just the wind and the weight of history. The door creaked open. Inside, dust, shadows, and a single military-grade footlocker, sealed with a biometric pad. Emma stared. Talia stepped forward. "Do you think it's his?" Emma pressed her thumb to the scanner. Beep. It opened. Inside were stacks of documents, a secure hard drive, a voice recorder, and a small black notebook with Victor Mikhail's initials etched in silver. Emma's hands shook. She opened the notebook. Every page was damning. Names, dates, weapons shipments, internal memos. Her father had been preparing to leak everything. There was even a photo, her at 14 holding her first rifle. A scribbled caption. "She's more precise than I ever was. God help them if she ever turns on them." Emma's breath caught. Talia gently took the drive. This will destroy them." Emma nodded. "And I want them to watch while it happens." Midnight broadcast. Hack the world. Talia had connections from her old hacking days. Enough to hijack the satellite feeds for a few minutes. Long enough to send a message to every major outlet, agency and weapon manufacturer across the globe. Emma stood before the camera. Black hoodie, face visible, eyes ice cold. "My name is Emma. Mikhail. My father was murdered by the people who were supposed to protect him, and the evidence you're about to see names every man responsible for covering up arms trafficking, war for profit and political murder. I was humiliated, mocked, discredited. They tried to erase me like they erased him, but I don't need their permission to speak. I only need one shot." And with that, the footage began. Every file, every memo, every voice recording from Mason, Langford, and even Gregor's final words before he died. The truth was out, and the world exploded. Backlash, governments fall, Mason runs. Within 24 hours, media outlets were in a frenzy. Interpol launched an investigation. 3 senators resigned. The International Council was suspended. And Mason vanished. Langford was arrested trying to flee through Dubai, but Emma knew Mason wouldn't run forever. Men like him didn't know how to live in shadows. They needed power like oxygen, and they always came back to what they feared most. Control. 6 weeks later, Invitational shooting gala. Dubai Emma arrived under a different name. A sponsor badge got her in. She wore a deep red scarf, her eyes behind aviator sunglasses. She watched the stage from the shadows. This wasn't just a shooting competition. It was a weapons expo disguised as sport. And there on the private guest list was Director Mason, listed under a pseudonym, Mark Seiler. Talia whispered through her mic, "He's here. Top floor suite, private guards. But he'll be at the VIP shooting event in 10 minutes. Emma pulled her scarf tighter. "Then I'll be there too." The final arena, open-air precision range VIPs and press milled about. The judges called names from a gold clipboard. Emma stepped up under her alias. Next shooter, Eva Morrison, representing no country. Some laughed. She didn't. Instead, she walked calmly to the line, pulled out the weapon provided, a high-caliber tactical rifle, and reached into her bag. The blindfold. Laughter again. Whispers. "Is she serious? She'll miss every shot." Stupid PR stunt. Mason watched from the deck above, drink in hand, smug and safe. Emma tightened the blindfold, breathed once, then fired. Bullseye, gasps, another shot, bullseye. Mason stood straighter. Shot 3. Bullseye. A hush fell over the crowd. Even the announcer forgot to speak. By the 10th bullseye, Mason was walking down toward the range, trying to confirm with security who she really was. Emma removed the blindfold and stared directly at him, and smiled. The confrontation security moved in. Mason waved them back. He stepped onto the field. "Who are you?" Emma walked up slowly. The crowd watched, confused. She pulled out a simple silver locket, her father's, held it up. "You remember this, don't you?" His face turned pale. "I watched you lie at his funeral," she continued. "I watched you pretend to be the one investigating his death, but you were already burying the truth." He tried to speak, but Emma stepped forward. "You underestimated the one thing you should have feared." He frowned. "What's that?" Emma turned to the stunned audience, then the reporters, cameras now rushing in. "You underestimated what a daughter will do to avenge her father." She pulled a memory card from her pocket, the backup of the leak, and handed it to the journalist closest to her. "Everything's on there. He's not Mark Seiler. His real name is Director Vincent Mason, and he's wanted by Interpol." Gasps, chaos, shouts. Mason tried to run, but this time security didn't protect him. They detained him. 1 week later, global coverage news outlets hailed her as the blindfold sniper, the daughter who brought down a dynasty of death, and the quiet shot heard around the world. Every arm of the corrupt empire came crashing down. Emma didn't attend the press conferences or the gala thrown in her name. She sat by the grave of her father in a quiet corner of the forest, wearing the same red scarf from the gala. She placed her medal, the one the World Shooting Federation mailed her, on the headstone. "Bullseyes don't matter," she whispered, "but justice does." Final scene, quiet gun range. Sunset. Emma stood at the same range her father built behind their cabin. She loaded a single bullet into a handmade rifle. His last project. Talia leaned on the fence, watching. "You ready to rest yet?" Emma smiled softly. "I'm ready to begin." She pulled on a blindfold and fired. Bullseye. The end.